Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Money Matters Top Tips for Success, where each and every day I bring on new business owners, entrepreneurs, and executives and have them share their top tips for success with you. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, book signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, moneymatterstoptips.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have Tom Sauer on the line, who's president and founder over at MacArthur Group. Tom, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Adam. Appreciate being here on the show.
So I'm excited to get into to learn a little bit more about your business and our broader topic of addiction, redemption, and some heavy issues. But before we do that, I want to get a little bit further into your background. So how'd you get started in your career in business?
Well, actually, I'm pretty new to the private sector in business. I spent the better part of my adult life actually in the military. So I enlisted in the U.S. Marine Corps right before I graduated from high school. 3 weeks later, I was at boot camp. Spent 3 years as an infantry Marine, and a couple of years after that, I found my way into the U.S. Naval Academy, from which I graduated in 2006. I drove ships for a few years, and then I became a U.S. Navy Special Operations Officer, also known as an EOD officer, Explosive Ordnance Disposal, and we were the Special Operations Bomb Squad, where I deployed with U.S. Special Forces, and we supported some of the most esteemed and well-known task forces in the world, some of these organizations that don't officially exist, but you hear about in the news all the time. I worked with all of them, and then eventually, after I started not having as much fun anymore, and I found myself flying a desk and not jumping out of planes or blowing stuff up with my friends anymore, I decided to enter the private sector and did a executive MBA at UCLA and the National University of Singapore. And then got out a little bit after that, and then I went in the private sector just as a defense contractor, and I realized that wasn't for me, and I wanted to do something completely different. I like to think of myself as more than just a one-trick pony, so I looked at what are the other things in my life that I really cared about, and what had a big impact on me. And of course, there's always the military, but when I was 18 years old, about 3 weeks before I left for the military, my father, who had struggled with alcohol and drugs his entire life, died of a drug overdose. And so that was a huge impact on me. And especially now, these days, you understand how, the opioid crisis and America's drug crisis is, it is incredible, the number of people we're losing. More Americans are being killed in the opioid crisis in less than 2 years than we lost in the entire Vietnam War.
Wow. That's
something that a lot of people don't think about. Right. A lot of people don't think about that. We're losing more Americans to opioids than we are to the entire Vietnam War, and that's just within a year and a half, 2 years. So that's one of the things I decided that, hey, that's something I wanted to pursue. So, if you see my Twitter handle, it says, on the front lines of America's drug crisis. That's where, in my bio right there. And so I founded I guess we're getting in right now with what we're moving forward with.
Let's get right into MacArthur Group. So let's just go right into it.
I founded a company. I assembled a team, a board of directors of 6 incredibly talented folks from different aspects of business, both healthcare, corporate law, finance, and from there, and then also soon after that, we retained a great accounting firm, BDO, and then a phenomenal law firm that I could not say better things about, Ropes and Gray, and we looked at acquiring other businesses and seeing what we can do to really combat them. And one of the things that is actually probably less well known, I'm sure that many of your listeners might be aware of, the drug crisis and everything like that, but also the industry itself, of the recovery industry, is fraught with quite a bit of corruption as well. So, and you might not be aware of that, there's a form of human trafficking that happens in this industry. It's referred to as body brokering, where drug addicts are being paid money to go to treatment centers, and then they spend a few days in there, and then they'll leave there, and then they'll go to another one, and then another one, while they go on a cycle, this merry-go-round of drug and alcohol benders and then recovery while they're getting paid, and they're bouncing back and forth between treatment centers. There's an entire black market underground industry that supports this, and it is a form of human trafficking, except this time instead of there being sex and prostitution it usually involves drugs and money. And we're entering that market because a lot of those bad guys are getting pushed out of the market. We're coming in because we're the ethical, legitimate forms of addiction treatment that can still be profitable and still be a very good alternative towards some of these risky and evil practices.
Wow, I had no idea that even existed. I don't think that
That's correct. Not a lot of people do.
You're in that. No, not at all. So how does this, this whole industry work? So just to give you've given us a couple of crazy stats today. So obviously the opioid addiction and also the trafficking of people through, let's just say, institutionalization is what it really is. So there's a way that these body brokers you mentioned. So how does this industry work? And what are some of the ways that you're going about fighting it, on the front line?
So there really is, just to give you an idea, the behavioral healthcare industry, right? That's kind of an umbrella term that involves mental health and also addiction treatment. It's a $35 billion industry in the United States. There's about 14,000 or so treatment centers throughout the U.S. of different shapes and sizes, right? Everything from a small counseling center for a marriage counselor all the way towards, mental health institutions, and then you've got everything in between. Right, some of them have a more clinical environment. Some of them, like ours, are more of a residential environment. So MacArthur Group owns one treatment center right now with 4 locations called Miramar Recovery. That's where I'm speaking to you. I'm speaking from our home office right now, and our home office is in Costa Mesa, California. But we have 3 other residential locations in Corona del Mar, California, and Laguna Beach. And that's where we have all, from the full spectrum of care. So everything from detoxification, when somebody, who's been heavily addicted to alcohol or drugs, they come in there, they're in a safe environment, they see our psychiatrist, we manage their medication, we give them medication to help them manage their withdrawal symptoms, because I'm not sure if you're aware, but going through an opioid withdrawal is pretty much you're living in your own private hell for days or weeks. You're going through those symptoms. And then we help manage them that. And then once they've completed their detox, their medical detox, then they begin residential treatment. That's typically, about 20 to 35 days, depending on the patient. And that's where it's a lot of therapy. It's a lot of getting your mind right. You're also removed from a lot of that bad environment. And then we can step them down after they complete residential treatment. And then they're in what's called partial hospitalization, where basically we're just kind of tapering them off the therapy and then releasing them back to their families and the real world and everything. That's, in a nutshell, that's how it works. I could get into more detail, but I think for the purpose of this podcast, that's where we're at. And my company, when I formed MacArthur, is intended to start acquiring these businesses that are profitable, and then from there, and then also, turn them around in some ways, because, for example, our first acquisition, Miramar, we got it for a great price. However, it was in the middle of being closed down, so we had to rehire all the employees, did some different marketing plans, and also, had to build up that census, and that's what I'm in the middle of right now. Also, I'm very, very happy and proud to say that we have now opened it up to veterans. So I can now, if there's any veteran out there who is covered by VA healthcare benefits, we can treat them for little no cost. And we actually took our first veteran just last week. He's with us now. He's a former Army Ranger,
man,
and he's a hell of a guy too. He's great. I like him a lot. He's really good people, and I think we have another Marine who's going to be on the way here later this week, and making also inroads with the Naval Special Warfare Committee, the Navy SEALs, to get some of the folks who are veterans or even active duty in the future, who them or their families who require addiction treatment. And we can do it through, if they're covered by the VA, we're in the middle of completing our going in network, have a contract with the VA. So it means that we can treat them in a very high-end, nice, beautiful residential environment in a very safe, private, confidential location, take really good care of them, and we do it at little to really effectively no cost to the patient or his family, which I'm really happy about that.
That's really exciting. So, Tom.
And you might also see that as well. I'd like to point out, you might actually see that as well on my, if you take a look at my Twitter, I know I have to make the plug, at Thomas B. Sauer. You'll see us on there, and that's my pinned tweet right on there. I've got a fairly large following. My pinned tweet talking about that, and that's the plug for Miramar Recovery, which is wholly owned by MacArthur Group.
Awesome. And so if somebody's listening to this and they do want more information on MacArthur Group, what's the best way for them to get it?
Best way for, as far as the company, the corporate itself, actually, I'll just go right to Miramar Recovery, which is miramarrecovery.com, MIRAMAR recovery.com. That's one way to do it, and that's as far as if you're seeking treatment for yourself or for a loved one. And then additionally, somebody can always reach me on LinkedIn. I'm at Tom Sauer. I think you probably include a link. And also, you can catch me on Twitter at Thomas B. Sauer.
Awesome. Well, hey, Tom, really appreciate you coming on the show today and educating us on America's addiction crisis and all the great work that you're doing over at the MacArthur Group. So great work you're doing there, and wishing you continued success on this mission, which benefits us all. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review in the Apple iTunes Store. If you're watching this on YouTube on our channel, Money Matters Top Tips, leave us some comments in the comments section. Let us know what's going on with you. And Tom, thanks again for coming on the show.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All right, so I will cut the audio there. Man, you blew my mind with these stats, Tom. I'm glad that somebody like you is out there working and taking care of this problem. That's a big problem. I had no idea it was that bad. Wow.
Yeah, opioid crisis
my mind
is
on this
terrible.
one.
Like everyone's focused on everyone in D.C. is focused on like some stupid impeachment stuff, and it's like meanwhile back in the ranch, probably we've got fentanyl that's coming in through Mexico or coming in from China via Mexico. And, I could throw out some more stats. We don't have time, but get this one. So let's say you bought $1,000 of like bulk heroin, right? Like let's look from like a businessman, right? And you could chop that up, get a street value of about 25 grand. Not bad, right? Right. That's pretty good ROI, would you say? You distribute that? Okay. Well, now let's say you get $1,000 of bulk fentanyl, right, which comes either in the mail from China or it comes up through the border. $1,000 of bulk fentanyl. To give you an idea, fentanyl is measured in dosages in micrograms, not milligrams. So $1,000 of bulk fentanyl is about the size of a baseball, and you could divvy that up, and you can make $7.4 million street value.
What?
Yeah, man.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, it's bad. So the thing is, the dealers and distributors don't. The dealers and the distributors don't care about whether or not you come back. They don't care if you die because the ROI is so heavy, is so much. Yeah.
Oh my
2 milligrams is 2 milligrams of fentanyl is lethal.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
And that's part of the reason why you hear about people dying all the time, because when dealers or distributors can't get enough of quote unquote the good stuff, whether it be cocaine, heroin, or even like street Xanax. They'll put a little bit of fentanyl in there, like really cheap fentanyl in there that's super cheap, which will have the same effect. A lot of them they don't notice, but guess what? You get more than 2 milligrams in there, that person's most likely at least going to the hospital, most likely will die, right?
Oh my
gosh. So, and because that whoever it is that's cutting that stuff up, is not like, it's not like at the lab at Pfizer, right? When you're putting it into your, And so one a friend of mine, is a friend of mine, a guy that I follow, we follow each other on Twitter, and we interact a fair bit. I don't know if you know who Scott Adams is. He's the creator of Dilbert.
Not off the top. Okay.
Oh, yeah. So he's the guy that created the Dilbert comic strip, and he's written a ton of books.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So he and I interact an awful lot, and I've been on his show. He has I've done his show a couple of times, and we DM back and forth, and we have a lot of mutual friends. But yeah, he lost his son to a fentanyl overdose just a little while ago.
Oh my God, that's
terrible. Yeah, it's affecting everybody, but that's part of the reason why that's happening. So I mean, I'm dealing with these folks every day. I've got I've seen probably 50 or so in just the past few months of folks coming through. I had one kid, she's 22 years old. She's probably going to die. Like, she was refusing treatment, and she still wanted to keep getting high, and she's 22 years old. And even some of the other folks who are addicts who are in recovery, were looking at her and like, I don't think she's going to last. She left. she had her boyfriend, air quotes, come pick her up. She didn't want to be there anymore. So, I mean,
God.
that's where I can tell you some stories, man. Already, I mean, it's just been a few months of guys I'm dealing with, and, it's rough. So one of the things that I liked, and I probably should have mentioned this, maybe you can throw it in there in the text, but like when I was in the military, we were in the business of saving lives, and it was a life and death thing, but it was obviously very kinetic. But what we're doing here is probably more impactful than what I did when I was in the military. And it's probably more is at stake, and it's scarier, and it's actually hurting Americans every day. But it's not as kinetic, right? It's not like action, explosions, that kind of thing. It's just, but it's very real. It's very real. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, hey Tom.
So I like it. We're not just some hot dogs.
No. I love what you're doing, helping people, man. I'm glad you're on the front line working on that. It takes. I know that's not easy. So, side note, I'm going to shoot the audio to my team. They'll do all the editing and all that, and you'll receive an email from either my assistant Diana or Julius in the next couple of days, and that'll have 8 to 10 links. It'll have your full iTunes, you have your iTunes, Spotify, your full, you have a full YouTube video, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn videos, more videos and social media than you ever thought you needed or wanted will be on your way. So feel free to use that as you like, and if you need anything else, just hit reply, and Julius will take care of you. Okay.
All right, man. Thanks a lot.
Awesome, man. Have a great rest of your week. Take care.
Soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.